In tonight's episode of Short Horrors, we have a story by Chemical Elk 1299. And if you've been following my channel, you know that I already had like 20 of his stories before, and they were all amazing, and this one is no exception. It's called My Neighbor Will Not Lose Her Home Again. And this one will show you why you never wanna mess with old Russian ladies or men with dogs. So let's check it out. "Get him!" Braden screamed up the street, his face magenta with rage. This was the third time Braden and his goons had cornered me this week, trying to make me an offer I couldn't refuse. Now, all I could do was run. They were gaining on me as I rounded the bend onto Birch Street. There was only one thing I could do. "Miss Yagarovich!" I shouted, pounding on the last house's mossy door. "Miss Yagarovich, please, I need you!" But I was too late. "Gotcha!" a voice said, as a big fat hand spun me by my shoulders. Tyler, the big one, drove a fist into my stomach, bellowing the air from my lungs. Weston, Braden's little hatchet-faced toady, threw me from the stoop and onto the pavement. "Your parents turned down my father's offer," Braden hissed. "Maybe this will help them reconsider." In a clatter of wood and Slavic obscenities, a tiny old woman in a faded pink shawl burst through the door, swinging her broom like a battle axe. "Shoo, debil! Shoo, blyat!" she cried, landing a bristly whack across the side of Braden's head. "Just wait until my father hears about this," Braden proclaimed as they all scrambled back up the street, tails between their legs. "If you come back here," Miss Yagarovich called back, "then I put foot in ass." "Are you hurt, moj dorogoj?" she asked, helping me to my feet. Irina Yagarovich had lived in Birch since forever. Before that, the Soviet Union. Her little wooden house had looked ancient all my life, held up by moss and wine as if the earth itself was trying to take it all back. Once, Miss Yagarovich had been a pillar of thriving little community, but that was before Braden's family moved here. His father company had bought out most of the homeowners on Birch to make way for luxury condominiums. Miss Yagarovich and her little log house were some of the last holdouts. So Braden's gang were allowed to convince us to live in ways money could not. Miss Yagarovich led me into her doily-covered sitting room, pouring me a cup of tea from steaming silver samovar. "What happened?" she asked in her motherly Russian yawl. "He wants my parents' house," I said, taking a sip, "so I told him to eat shit." "Ah," she chuckled, lighting a long, thin cigarette. "I'm really worried, Miss Y," I said. "Oh, drogoj," she croaked, laying a hand on my cheek. "Why?" "First, it was the Millers," I said, raising to my feet. "Then the Johnsons and the Smiths. It's only a matter of time before my folks cave. And after today... What if you're next?" I asked. Miss Yagarovich looked at me for a moment, her eyes somewhere far away. "Let me tell you a story," she said. "When I was a girl, men come to my village, make everyone to leave. You either take money or they come back with gun. But they failed. Know why? Because home is here," she said, poking a bony finger into my chest. I thanked her for the tea before setting out past the row of empty houses back home, feeling like something bad was coming. And I was right. 3 days later, I was walking my dog when I saw police at Miss Yagarovich's house. She was sobbing on the doorstep. That evening, I went to check on her, where she wordlessly pressed a crumpled city notice into my hands. Effective immediately, the premises must be vacated due to zoning irregularities. Braden really had told his father. "Not again!" she kept repeating. "Not again!" We were rereading the documents for a fifth time when a knock came at the door. Throwing it open, Braden stood flanked by his goons in the paling light. "I heard your little friend has to move out," Braden said as his crony snickered. "Shame." "You!" Miss Yagarovich howled, as I only barely held her back. "You did this, debil!" "Don't be like that," Braden said, pushing his way past us into the living room. "I'm sure my father will be happy to give you a nickel for this dump before we burn it down. But he won't mind if we redecorate first." Braden hopped onto the kitchen table, kicking the papers to the floor. "Stop!" Miss Yagarovich screamed. "Stop, stop, stop!" Tyler yanked the refrigerator from the wall, tipping it over in a crash of rolling beads and shattered jars. Weston snatched a heavy stone mortar from a cabinet, smashing it into dust. I held her tightly in a corner, trying to keep her away from the ransack. "All right, boys, let's go," Braden finally said, smiling at the destruction. "Just wait until Father hears about this." "None of you will live to tell him!" With bewildering strength, Miss Yagarovich set me aside like a doll. Her face seemed to wither like the bark of an old oak tree as she raised her arms, the bones within snapping like bowed branches. With a jolt that shook the walls, the house seemed to lurch upwards, throwing Braden and his friends to the floor. She leapt onto Tyler, wrenching off his head with bare hands. Weston's beating heart was plucked from his chest like a rotten apple, as Miss Yagarovich tore a wet gob of flesh away between iron teeth. "Oh God!" Braden whimpered as she dragged herself towards him in a trail of blood. "Oh God!" "No!" Miss Yagarovich said, her jaw unhinged like snakes. "Not God!" When it was done, I stared dumbly from the corner, the house shaking in lockstep rhythm. Peeking out the window, I saw that it wasn't just moving, it was walking. Walking on a pair of gargantuan chicken legs. Miss Yagarovich?" I trembled, as the room brightened itself as if by magic. Where are we going?" "To see Bride and Papa," she said, happily pouring me a cup of tea. "To remind him what old Baba Yaga can do." Ooh, oh my, oh my. You see, I told you, you gonna learn. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm gonna see you next time. Bye bye.